Welcome back to the Tom and D podcast. We got Darren
Hey.
Abram here and Tom Fry. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing well, man. I found a house.
Nice. Congrats.
You know what the best part is? We always
What?
joke about your sister. It's literally next door to your sister. And I was freaking out because I noticed the address. I'm like, I think she lives around here somewhere. So I texted her afterwards and she said, it's right next door. I said, holy shit, I'm going to be your neighbor.
She told me that yesterday with a crying emoji.
Yeah, and then is he going to be throwing pebbles at my window at night? You know, it's
Tom and D.
Two middle-aged idiots. Dude, I am bummed because we didn't get to watch the Indiana game. You had some concert at Red Rocks. And I tell you what, if you were just there to see music, I'm going to be pissed. But you better, I know you're doing a documentary about a musician, and you better have been there to do filming, because that's not a good excuse to go, bros before hoes, as they say. That's very
Okay, so it should have been bros before shows, but no, I was there both enjoying the music because I love the music, but it was for the doc that I'm doing. So we're like, a third or so of the way through it with production, and I just booked my tickets to Amsterdam and Dublin, where we'll be doing some more filming. And then, Costa Rica, a couple of trips in November, and then a little bit more in Colorado. And then we'll be done with, principal photography, and then doing whatever pickups we need to do afterwards, which there's always some. But
well, be careful when you're in Amsterdam. Literally everyone, and including myself, you go into a coffee shop and you're like, give me the best stuff you have. And then you walk out and you have no idea where you are. You leave your pot sitting on the table and you get lost. It's
dude, I've been there a couple of times with my kids,
well, that's different with your kids.
It's a very different experience when I go versus you.
I bet.
Mine's the green light district.
So how are you going to fund this documentary you're doing?
Well, like most, I usually start off self-funding and then go from there and seek out investors. But we'll see. I'm actually going to put together a little teaser soon and reach out to some investors. But it's actually a great topic. I don't want to go too far into it. As you know, I have an NDA about this, so I can't talk about it too freely right now, but it's a great segue to our guest, because I have an incredible guest. Like, this guy is my kind of guy. He's often referred to as the Kickstarter guy. He's a filmmaker. He's a filmmaker's mentor. He's a crowdfunding wizard, and whatever you need, the Kickstarter guy has got you covered. He's that kind of guy that can turn passion into action and dreams into dollars and ideas into the kind of films that wins festivals and, more importantly, distribution deals. So without further ado, Justin Giddings, welcome to the show.
Hey, loved that intro. Thank you. So glad to be here.
I'm
excited.
So are you going to help Darren kickstart his documentary?
I
mean, if he's kickstarting, I'm the guy. So
yeah.
I've never done Kickstarter. I've seen other people have great success at it and have heard about it, but it looks kind of daunting to me. And I'm also that kind of guy that's so reluctant to ask, which is probably a big hurdle that a lot of people have to get over. And I know you coach a lot of people. So why don't we just get into it, but explain to our audience what you do.
So I'd say I'm a filmmaker first. Like, that's what got me kind of into this space. I grew up as an actor, actually. So went to school for acting, went out to LA for acting, and frankly, I had a pretty great career. And then I was a series regular on a show, and then it got canceled. And I felt really frustrated that, here I am unemployed, like, again, I turned to my co-star, I was like, dude, we got to make our own stuff. It's the future. It's like, cool, let's do it. And we ended up crowdfunding about $100,000 for those two short films, for our first two short films. And that definitely that kind of led me down the filmmaking space. So I've directed several shorts that have all done really, really well. A bunch of festivals and millions of views. I won Slam Dance screenplay competition a couple years ago. I'm
Nice.
direct first two couple $1 million budget feature in April and May. So I'm in the trenches as a filmmaker, but of course the other thing that happened was people started asking for help with their crowdfunding campaign, and what started out as coffee sessions with friends giving tips just slowly evolved into me having a company called Greenlight Yourself, where I've helped over 350 filmmakers raise nearly $12 million now with a 97% success
Wow.
rate. And then that branched into other areas where I partnered with the co-founder of Slam Dance to teach film festivals, and then Mara McCann, a former venture capitalist, on how to network and build professional relationships in the industry. So that's where the
What
sort of networking
what
coaching
was the
happened.
show that got canceled? Is it something that we would know?
And maybe so. It was one of the first web series that got turned into a TV show. And the web series had 70 million views. So that was really popular.
Yeah.
And then it turned into a TV show. Lionsgate had a horror channel for a hot second called FearNet.
I
So
remember that.
we were one of their marquee shows, and then that whole channel went under. Really, the whole thing went
Oh
under.
man.
So it's called Bite Me. It was a zombie comedy where three gamers are the unlikely heroes in the zombie apocalypse because we've been practicing all the time. So
Right.
we're ready to take on the
I could see you. To be honest, you look like you just walked off the set of that. I mean, the way that you look and the way that you're dressed right now. I mean, I could see you actually gaming right now in that series. It's like, don't even bother going to makeup or wardrobe. Just, get on set.
I was literally almost 100 pounds heavier too. So I was the funny, heavy guy, comic relief of the trio.
Right.
But yeah, no, I haven't changed my zombie or game loving ways.
Good. Never do it.
Kind of the Nick Frost of the
Yep,
Shaun of the Dead.
exactly.
Ooh, Shaun of
Great
the
reference.
Dead.
Yep.
Yeah. And
Or
zombies and comedy always go together so well.
Hugely. I
they
love it.
do. What was that one that did it have Bill Murray or something in it? And it was like some town out in the middle.
Zombieland.
Zombieland.
Zombie.
I went and
Yeah.
saw the second one they did in the theater, and it was hilarious. But yet it had some scary moments. I mean, it was a horror comedy. I mean, it was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
They call them zomcoms, which I think is
Ooh.
hilarious.
With all these people that are reaching out to you, whether it started in coffee shops and then built up, you said 350 films, you must be incredibly busy or have to be so incredibly selective who you help out, because everyone's got a script, everyone's got a movie that they want to be made and funded. I can't imagine what your inbox must be like.
Yeah, no, it's a nightmare. It's a hellscape through which I must wade every day. The inbox, that is. But yeah, I'm selective. There's no hire me button on my website. It's all through consultations. Particularly because most of my fee is on the back end. So I really want to know the filmmaker. I want to really talk them through the process, just so that there's a good mutual understanding there. And then also, crowdfunding is a very specific tool, very powerful tool, but it's really best geared for films that need somewhere between $20,000 and $60,000. There's plenty of campaigns that are outside of that, but they're orders of magnitude harder in difficulty. And so that kind of sweet spot is something that most people, no matter where they're at in their career, no matter the size of their audience, can do sort of the formulaic marketing and storytelling type stuff that can 97% success rate. They can hit those kinds of numbers without having to have a major following and that kind of stuff. So, it's not for every person. It's not for every project, but for the things that it is good for, it's fantastic. It acts as an excellent pitch deck, right? It can show investors that there's an audience, that you know how to find that audience, that how to monetize that audience, articulate the vision of your project. So it's really, really, really great for what it does in a somewhat narrow use case.
Do you
Right.
find that, I mean, I think about like politicians who do it, like a Bernie Sanders who say we have a grassroots campaign. Your little
Mm.
$5 donations add up. Are you finding that it's smaller donations that are adding up to this, or do you get some big players that come in and give you 20,000, 30,000, something like that?
Yeah. The average contribution amount is $70 to $80.
Ooh, that's not bad.
So yeah, it's not, one thing that's sort of different about film, even from other crowdfunding type of campaigns, is that it's really artistic patronage, right? Nobody's getting like a pre-retail discount of some gadget.
Right. We're not
They're
getting
going to be,
producer credits, it's like
yeah. And so they are there to truly be a patron of the vision that's being articulated to them. And that's why they're willing to pay a premium in order to do that. So I generally steer my clients away from trying to get the $1 and the $5 and really focusing on articulating their message in such a way that north of $50 average stays in place.
I know that real quick. I was just going to say that I know like Darren's a big fan of Monty Python, and they were trying to raise money to do it. It might have been Life of Brian or something like that, and they were trying to raise money. And George Harrison was friends with these guys, and George said, I'll fund it, and he gave them like several $100,000, whatever. And they said, well, why did you, give this money to them? He was like, I just wanted to see this film. It's like he, like you said, like a patron. He just wanted to see this film because he knew it was going to be great. So he said, "Fuck it, I'll give you 500,000 or whatever you need to get it done." Kind of a cool story.
There aren't too many George Harrisons out there with deep pockets like that to do it.
Yeah.
The angel investors. It's really. It seems to me like it would probably be hitting family and friends first. I bet there's sort of a tier, and then that sort of general outreach. But for that general outreach where you're trying to get, a large group of people to, check out your project, what are the enticements for them besides, just being a patron of the arts? Is there something where it's like, okay, for this dollar amount, we'll give you a t-shirt or we'll give you seats to the premiere, et cetera. Is there anything like that you do to entice?
Yeah. So those are called like incentives or perks. Um, and so, funnily enough, those don't tend to be the driving factor. People really are giving generally because they know, like, or trust the person or the vision that's being articulated to them, and, and then it comes from like an ability, like I can afford $50. I can afford $100. For most working adults, that's not a number that's triggering like, okay, we've exceeded my budget. Like, oh, this is cool. I support this. I think this is really great. Here's $50. And honestly, I'd say about, I'm trying to think accurate, last time I checked, like 20-ish% of people's contributions, the contributor or backer will elect no reward or no perk. They don't even want anything. They just want you to go make.
Might not even want their name. They won't even. Some people will say, "Don't even." What's funny? It's like PBS has their big funding drives, and it's like you're not donating to PBS for a fucking tote bag. It's like that's not why. It's because I want to see PBS funded and be able to put on this programming that my kids enjoy or that I enjoy.
You know what? I use the PBS thing in my training and talk about the fact that exactly what you just said. No one's doing it for the tote bag, but PBS gives the tote bag because that makes you feel.
There it is.
I want the fucking bag.
Walking around the store with his tote bag.
I mean, and it is the same principle, more so that like you're not spending $60 a year to buy that tote bag, right? You're spending $60 a year to support, and then you have the tote bag as a token of that support. And that's exactly what the rewards-based crowdfunding is, right? Particularly with film. You know, because if you start giving away T-shirts and stuff, it starts cutting into the take home, you know, the net of the raise. And so you generally want to keep things mostly digital until you've hit 100 or higher. But like a very common popular perk is that at $100, a backer can get their name in the credits, like a special thanks.
And that doesn't cost anything. I mean, that's just, you know, but to say, you know, we raised 500,000, but we spent 300,000 on tote bags, you know, it's like, what the fuck?
When these fundraising campaigns are going on, what do you advise them in terms of, you know, their general outreach? Is it just, okay, get a great site on Kickstarter, put, you know, a couple of clips on there and then see what happens? Or is it really the push through other sources, other platforms, social media, and then follow up? Is it, you know, a lot of short clips with like, okay, here's the progress, you know, here's what's happening 1 month later. Here's what we're doing. Here's shots of storyboards. Here's shots of, you know, little clips of our first day of shooting, et cetera.
Kind of all of the above, right? When I'm working with clients, we kind of break it up into like, okay, well, what do you have control over? And how do you do that well and with integrity? So, you know, who do you know that is in your network, right? And how do you reach out to them in a way that doesn't feel like icky and gross and begging and desperate and all that kind of stuff? And then on the other side, it's like building up that audience, building up that crowd from which to crowdfund, like social media wise. And those two things sort of combined are generally the basis of where you're going to get a lot of your contributors and a lot of your backers. But in terms of the content that you're putting out, yeah, it's articulating all the interesting stuff that's happening with this film or with this project, in terms of updates and whatnot.
Shifting gears to you said you get paid through the back end. Are you also involved in helping people navigate the festival circuit and distribution and making that distribution plan?
Sometimes, most of the times, clients will come to me with crowdfunding just for that process, and sort of the agreement, coaching agreement. Really, that's the scope of it.
Development.
You know, I have other programs, right? I have other programs, and so sometimes people will hire me through those other programs to help them with their film festivals, for example, or to help them find investors and whatnot. And then sometimes people will hire me on just an hourly coaching basis, to help with that kind of stuff. But I generally kind of stay in the lane that client originally brought me in for. I'm not a big like sales guy. Not that there's anything wrong with sales, but I'm not a huge fan of like, okay, well, you hired me for this, now hire me for this, now hire me for this. I make sure my people know what I can do, and then they know, and then they've worked with me, and they will know if they want to bring me on in other capacities.
I also want to hear about some of these films that you've actually done yourself. I mean, that's really intriguing. I mean, the business side of it is very interesting, but you know, I'm all about, tell me about like, what was the last film that you put together, or what do you have coming up that you could maybe talk about?
Yeah. So let's see. Let's talk about the last film. Although it's funny. Maybe I can't talk about that last film. So I did like a micro budget feature.
A micro what?
Like a micro budget feature where we spent $8,000 total for all of it. And it came out okay, but we knew we needed to do more. And at the time, we didn't really have the resources or time to really invest in it more. And a production company kind of came along and said, if we can get a star in there, a name in there, we think we can sell it. Like, we think it's good, but it does need a little bit more. We'll take care of that, and we'll put a name in there. And I'll say this, I wouldn't recommend, as a filmmaker, I wouldn't recommend having your producer, financier, and editors, because they were a post house, all be the same person.
Yeah.
That's really, really tough.
And you don't want them to suggest someone like Carrot Top that's not the name we're looking for.
Well, we got Alfred Molina. So
he's great.
I was at, yeah, no, it
Yeah,
was
he's
great.
wonderful.
It's more the behind the scenes stuff. And like I said, having somebody who is the money person, the editing person, and now sort of the distribution person, you just sort of lose a lot of creative control.
Yeah.
Not that I'm like control guy, but like there's no incentive for them to collaborate. And so, yeah, I guess I won't go too much deeper into that, but it was a learning experience. It got me my first feature directing credit, and now I'm working on a feature that I'm going to be directing in May, currently scheduled. That we're calling it a coming of middle age story. So I'm really sort of excited to explore that as I enter middle age.
Right up Darren and
Yeah.
I's alley. I mean, it's like
Yeah,
Darren
I mean,
and I, two middle-aged idiots.
Nah. I think it, it explores like sort of family dynamics of having like when you have to start parenting your parents, taking care of your aging parents, and the conflicts and the generational traumas and the political differences and all that stuff that never really had to be faced, but now the roles are reversed where they need you like you needed them at one point, and sort of those dynamics, right? Which I find really, really interesting. And we just got a 7 on the blacklist, so I'm feeling pretty good about the script. We're going to keep doing some work there, but that was the last little bit that I did as we go out to investors. But yeah, it's coming together, and I'm really excited about it.
Are you doing any kickstarting on this? I mean, have you used some of your own creativity to raise money, or?
Well, what's interesting? Yes and no. So no actual crowdfunding. However, the skill sets of crowdfunding are pretty, can be ubiquitously applied in this industry.
Oh yeah,
learning how to articulate your vision in a enthusiastic and sort of emotionally triggering, compelling way. Making people feel like they are sort of a part of the creative collaborative process, even though they are just the funding part of that process. Presenting like presentation materials, the visuals and the value of those kinds of visuals, and the content that you're putting out, and social content, like all of that stuff just directly translates into the kind of work that we're doing as we're putting together the lookbooks and the pitch decks and the investment dossiers, and going out and making meetings and all that kind of stuff. Instead of a video that I've been able to really curate and edit, I'm going to be in the room having, 1 to 2 minutes to really not just pitch the film, but really talk about sort of that emotional foundation for this film, so that then people lean in, and then I can talk about the numbers and the comps and the, all of that kind of stuff. But people got to be, they got to be bought in on some emotional level before they're going to give a shit.
Yeah,
right.
Basically.
But it really takes both sides of the brain when you're doing that, where you're working with the creative aspect of it and trying to get people emotionally connected to it. But then you have to be a numbers person too. And like, this is how it makes sense. Not just, with what your realistic expectations are for sales, distribution, but also in terms of the actual production costs and how you're going to create that strong production value, which is an overused word for sure. But yeah, that's something that I'm always dealing with too. And it's like, I want this shot, I want this thing, but damn it, I don't really have the money to do that. So here's how we're going to do it. So it's always this internal and external conflict, working with the creative and the money.
Yeah. And, to yes, and that's one value of the crowdfunding experience, is that is the same thing of mixing those two brains together. And just as like a somewhat of a side note for crowdfunding is that, that's another area it can be valuable for people. 20 to 60K is not going to be most people's budget, but it might pay for that one shot or that one licensing thing,
or
so I have a lot of clients
or Alfred Molina
showing up for a day or two. Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
So while we're not doing it on this film, at least as far as I know so far, part of what what got me hired though was the fact that I have this experience of melding those two brains, and it's a scrappy indie film, and they wanted a director who had all that creative vision stuff, but also kind of understood how we were going to get this thing made and financed and distributed, so that I could be an active part of that and not just show up, make my creative decisions, and let the business people do the business stuff.
Right. Well, with
Yeah.
with this and your process or your experience, what is the most common mistake that you see with filmmakers, whether they're first time filmmakers or even ones that have done several, have multiple movies under their belt? What is it that you see that is the most common mistake?
Ooh, that's interesting because it kind of depends on the context that this mistake is happening. But I'd say one thing I just generally speaking, one thing I've noticed, particularly in my role as a coach or consultant, is that filmmakers often fall in love with the idea of their film and forget that in articulating that film to other people, they need to learn how to articulate the heart or the emotion or the sort of driving underlying pieces, if you will, of that story. The cool ideas, the interesting concept, all of that might be interesting to like 10 or 20%, right?
Right.
But what people are going to lean, oftentimes you'll see filmmakers sort of describing the film that they're seeing in their head, but they're the only ones that can see that film inside of their head. The person sitting across from them has no fucking clue what they're talking about, right? And so you
Right.
have to appeal to that emotional place that does feel universal or feels accessible. Coming of middle age story, that time when you have to parent your parents, when the roles reverse and the people that you always needed to take care of you now need you to take care of them. That now we're talking about like experiences that I'm seeing your heads nod, right? Like, you know what I'm talking about. And I'm not here going like, okay, and it's really cool. We're going to shoot it on 35 millimeter and we're going to do this. Like, I'm not getting into the conceptual ideas of the film. I'm
You're
talking
selling
about
the emotion and your passion for the film and what it means to you. Because if they see you are passionate about it, then how could they not at least, their ears perk up a little bit? It's like, this guy really is into this. It's kind of weird. It's something I wouldn't want to do in front of my kids, but this guy's into it. That toe sucking and stuff is kind of weird. I mean, a whole film on toe sucking.
You're so on point with that. In fact, this is science. I mean, listeners can go Wikipedia out on this, but there's something called mirror neurons, where our brains have actually evolved to have physiological empathy, that when we see somebody have an emotion, the same emotion centers in our brains light up. This is why film is so cathartic. You go into a room with these 60-foot sized people, all your other senses are deadened, and your brain is just literally like, yeah, I'm feeling this. Like, literally, I'm having these feelings that I'm seeing sort of portrayed in front of me. And so when you're in the room, even with an investor, that emotion, that passion, that true understanding of the narrative behind the narrative, why you're making this film and not some other film,
right?
That is what is going to literally light up the brains of the people, the executives, the investors sitting across from you. And if you don't have that and you just start listing cool, interesting, conceptual plot point shit, and fancy director things that you want to do with the camera angle, like, gone. They don't, even if it's cool.
And another thing I was going to say is to me, it's like, and this is completely different, but maybe the audience can relate to. When I was a kid and it was Christmas or a birthday, all I cared about was opening presents. What did I get? What did I get? But as I get older, I get much more of a thrill to give a gift and see them open it. And it's kind of like, that's what excites me, to see their eyes open. So if you're, pitching an idea and your eyes are open, how can that not make them feel something,
Okay, I'm calling bullshit on that one. I've seen you at Christmas. I've seen you at Christmas. I'm calling bullshit.
You have not seen me at Christmas.
What you're talking about too with getting people emotionally connected. It reminds me of Simon Sinek and the Golden Circle. If you don't know it, look it up. Watch the Golden Circle. It was his TED Talk that made him famous. It is absolutely brilliant. In the center of this golden circle is the why. And he talks about, all of these examples of, passion that sold things, whether it was uh, Martin Luther King Jr., I have a dream and it's not like I have an idea. It's this passionate thing
Right.
that, I want you to come on this journey with me. And we believe in this idea. Same thing with Apple, in the early days, at least, it wasn't, okay, we want to sell all these big things and make a lot of money. It was, we want to challenge the status quo. We want to do this. Our computers are beautiful. They do these awesome things like right out of the box, and we do all these incredible things. And it's about, again, the why, that's challenging the status quo. And it really changes the world. And he shows these examples of where people try to do the opposite. So if you haven't seen it, check out Simon Sinek, The Golden Circle.
I
Fantastic.
love TiVo. I'm kidding. I don't love
Well, TiVo, where they failed was, in his example, is that they said that, okay, this is what you need to do. Instead of like, are you the kind of person that would like to have the sort of freedom to do whatever
you
you
wanna
want?
do.
It wasn't that. It was like, buy our stuff, record this this show, kind of dictating what they should do, and telling the audience exactly what. And they had a moderate success, but then they kind of crashed and burned.
But is that bad marketing or is that
It
bad
was.
advertising?
It
I mean,
was like you don't want to tell people what you do. What comes sort of second. You want to get to the heart of why you do it. And again, like he gives a great example of that, and it just really ties into passion over function. I don't want to say purpose, because purpose is part of that why also.
Yeah, this is I'm glad we're kind of spending some time on this. So another way that this is talked about, and I always like coming at these things from different angles because I think people hear them differently, right? In sales, they have this sort of basic concept called features versus benefits, right? And the features are with a car, right? It has, I don't know cars. Yeah, it has like 200 horsepower. Goes from 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, right? Those are stats that maybe car people are into. But the benefit, what is the benefit you're going to get? Now watch any car commercial, and the whole car commercial is benefit, right? It's always, this is you driving on those roads. This is you experiencing this luxury. All the why behind the car thing. And then you'll have these little, sometimes it's just a chyron, but like you'll have these little things that's like, goes where it'll tell you the horsepower, or it'll tell you the 8 audio Wi-Fi speakers, but you're watching Matthew McConaughey enjoy the music.
Right? Yeah, exactly. It's these big universal concepts like freedom and love and passion, and these things that we can relate to on this emotional, heartfelt level. Like you said, instead of the stats. I love that. Feature benefits over features.
Exactly. And if you watch, say, like a local used car salesman commercial, it's just a guy that's standing there going, this thing's got this, it's got this thousands of miles. And like, you're not having the same experience, right?
Right.
You're not having, right. Unless you've been doing your research and you know that you need this car with this, that, like, unless you're just trying to check a box, and then that's where you would go, because great, they check that box for you. But we're not checking boxes. We're making art. We're trying to like create transcendence and challenge societal norms and question and explore our traumas and our curiosities and our wonder. Like you can't start listing shit.
Yeah.
And then you see this guy saying, come on down to my car lot. And it's like, dude, you are the last person I wanted to talk to today. It's like, I'd rather talk to Matthew McConaughey than,
we're going to run with this even further. So have you ever been to like a Q&A or a talk back or a situation where someone starts telling the plot of their film? And it kind of sounds like that. Come on down. Like, I got a film and this is what happens, right? So there's going to be lots of car chases, and it opens on this guy who's like running away, and like you're immediately bored, To give an example from my own films, and I teach this in my crowdfunding masterclass. I had the film that won Slam Dance screenplay competition. You can kind of do it one of two ways. Okay, so it opens on first off, I'm going to be shooting it on 35 millimeter film at this like mansion in Beverly Hills that like overlooks the ocean, and it opens on like all these like presidential commendations, and we can kind of see this guy has lived this amazing life, and we push on this old man looking out of a window. Like, I'm already bored, by the way, doing this. You know what I mean?
I'm wondering why Beverly Hills has an oceanfront view, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, Malibu. Anyways,
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
My brain. I lived there for 13 years. But, or this, right? So it's called The Peregrine. So this script is an homage to my grandfather. My grandfather was the most decorated, at the time of his death, the most decorated CIA spy in the agency's history. And he had survived an assassination attempt when he was young. So my whole life, the narrative was Grandpa's going to die any day now. His organs were literally rearranged in his body. And I heard my whole life, he's going to die any day now. And you can't kill this motherfucker. I mean, he never went anywhere. So one year, my grandma calls me and says, hey, you might want to come visit. Grandpa's going to die. And I was like, I'll try to make that work. And then he passed away. And I never got to say goodbye to him. I never got to tell him what a hero he was to me. I always get emotional about it. Like, I'm
getting emotional hearing it. Yeah.
And like, so this script isn't about me, isn't like the plot wise me saying goodbye to my grandpa, but this is my homage to him. This is my way of saying like, okay, you're on some journey now. I don't know what it is, but you're on some journey now. And it kind of looks like this in my head, and then my grandma read it and cried her face off. And that's, I can then tell you the plot. Now, maybe I tell you the what, right? Going back to that golden circle. Now I can kind of tell you like, and I want to shoot this like with some vintage era cameras, like, cause he was like 70s opera dude. I mean, James Bond, right? So I would do this. And you might be leaning in then. And oh, cool. That's how you're going to tell that story. Interesting. Right. That's what you're going to do. That's great. But it starts from that emotional why. That's so much more compelling than,
and just coming in and hitting them with details that they maybe not even know or understand.
Because everybody can connect to that story on an emotional level. It's a universal truth that we as just human beings can experience and understand.
100%.
Even if we don't have that grandfather that does that, we can put ourselves into that situation.
How do you and Darren? How do you and Darren know each other?
It was decision maker meetings, right?
That's right. Yeah, I paused because I was wondering if you knew.
Yeah, no, it was. So one of my programs is called Decision Maker Meetings, and it really focuses on how to, frankly, very like strategically, almost formulaically, reach out to industry professionals with whom you'd like to have a relationship and really develop sort of an authentic, sort of other-centered, mutually beneficial win-win relationship with them. And you can do that, like I said, sort of systematically so that you really start to build up a network. We call it the network effect. But you really start building the network that you want and that you need. Whether or not those individuals actually bring you projects or bring you financing, they become touch points, mentors, introducers, connections to people who might do a thing. It's fantastic. Frankly, I'm not here to hawk it, but like it's great, and that's where we met.
There's a lot of great information when just you were able to speak, much like we're doing now, and being able to like really dive into these things. Like, I think this sort of thing is so educational and enlightening to filmmakers, whatever level of experience they have. Just to kind of check themselves on certain things. Again, like going back to the why and all these things. Like I'm just taking notes myself, like, oh yeah, because I'm coming up to this pitch stage of this project that I'm working on that you heard me talking about at the beginning of this, that, I've been shooting for a while and, kind of making sure that there is a there and, and that, that this movie is going to make it. And it's like, yeah, okay, this is pretty cool, pretty fucking cool. So, now's the time I'm putting together the sizzle reel and kind of the pitch deck and while I do that, I got to make sure that I really stay focused on that. Why are we telling this story and the benefit? What is it that people are going to connect to and really relate to on an emotional level? How's this going to change the world? How's this going to change the person that's
Are you
watching
going to
this
use
and
me
impacting.
a voiceover? Do you need a voice?
It's not a voiceover type thing. That's not a voiceover type thing, and it's also not a. I'm trying to stay away from talking
In a
heads and try to.
world. I'm just kidding. We always joke on the show about, every time there's an opportunity for Tom to say, "Oh, well, do you need a voiceover for it?" Because that's what I do. So,
Which
I'm
is
good.
important. You gotta sell yourself. I
Yeah.
get
So
it.
Darren's sitting there saying, "I have this sizzle reel." I'm thinking, "Ooh, I do those all the time. Don't you need a voiceover for it?"
In a world.
In a world where few hearts survive.
That's how
Oh,
I got my start in the industry. I did voiceovers as a little kid and
did you?
did voiceovers through, I mean, the entire time I was in LA, I did voiceover work
No
and I
kidding.
stopped. I don't know
Who
why.
was your agent out there?
DDO.
Okay, I have heard of them before.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Osbrink for a little while, but
So,
That's awesome.
Justin, before our time escapes us here, where can people find more about you?
Yeah.
What you do? Website, Insta? What? How can they find out more or
yeah,
follow you?
I would say probably the best is individual sites. So the kickstarterguy.com for crowdfunding. Um, and then if you're interested in the film festival stuff or the decision maker meetings, you can go to filmfestivalmastery.com or decisionmakermeetings.com. My Instagram, I have Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff, but I also have randomly begun a career as a musician, singer, songwriter. I just hit 10,000 monthly listeners on Spotify.
No kidding.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a whole other thing.
I thought you were going
I
to say
write sad-
Truth Social or something. Like you can find me on
no,
Truth Social.
no. So if you're into like indie folk, sad bastard music, I'm your
Yeah.
man. But yeah, so at Justin Giddings or at I am Primal Panic are the two Instagram handles for that.
What was that
I love
green?
that.
What was that? You said your company was called Green Go or
Greenlight.
Greenlight yourself. Greenlight yourself.
so Greenlight yourself doesn't have a separate website, or how many websites do you fucking have, dude?
I know it does, but it's just kind of a placeholder hub where people can click through. It's greenlightyourself.com. But so much of what I do is so brand specific that I find that I end up using, doing a webinar about decision maker meetings, and then we use that website and that kind of stuff. So,
Gotcha. Wow.
yeah. Easiest thing is just, at Justin Giddings. If somebody wants to connect with me and is like, which one do I do? Where do I go? That's probably the easiest.
Well, I need some new brakes on my car. If you could help me get a little Kickstarter going for that, I always joke around, and I'm not teasing homeless people or anything, but you see these guys standing there on the side of the road with a sign and this sob story, like out of work, wife left me, anything will help. And I just want to stand out there in a suit and say, my BMW needs, a new, timing belt, please help. It's like you're standing there. It's like, I'm being honest,
My BMW.
needs
Can you
a timing belt.
polish my gold toilet?
There's this guy in Denver. I'm wondering if Darren's ever seen him around town, but this guy says, need money for booze, cigarettes, and hookers. At least I'm being honest. And it's this old guy, and I gave him money because I thought it was clever.
Yeah, that was Charlie Sheen, by the way.
That was Charlie Sheen. Cool, man.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we had you on. I'm so glad we had a chance to meet you. And when this film that you're working on, when you have more information about that, maybe the premiere's coming up or something like that, and you can share, we'd love to have you back.
Oh, that'd be lovely. Thank you. Yeah, I'm really excited about it, and as it begins to really come together, I'm learning a lot. I'm doing a lot. Yeah, I'd love to.
Okay, and as we've just started, we're going to ask you as a question, if you could interview 3 people on a podcast, who would they be? Because we chose you, that was my number one. So,
yeah, 3 people on this. I'd love to hear from a composer, particularly the guy who did Midsommar.
Oh yeah.
He's fantastic, and I'd love to hear sort of what modern composers do and experience. And then there's a great cinematographer named Idan Menon, IDANMENIN. Fantastic. I say young, but I met him when he was young. He's probably not young anymore. Excellent cinematographer. And I think he's just got he's a perfect mix between that technical artistry and, well, yeah, I guess that technical artistry, right? The sort of the technique and the artistry. And then who would be the third person I'd be?
Carrot Top.
Carrot Top. Nailed it. I would love to hear. I'd love to hear like a social media film expert, like somebody who does social media, but whose area of focus or expertise is film, because it's like a lot of things. It's different for film, and you can't, like, even as a musician, I can do different types of content because I can write a song and I can do parts of the song, and it's a lot of content. I can't like make a movie. Right. And then,
so you want to interview basically people that you can pick their brains and learn from and use it for yourself. So basically you're just a selfish interviewer.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, this is free education without having to pay.
Exactly. I like it. I like it.
Well, Justin, thank you so much for your time. Really, really appreciate it. You are absolutely fantastic and so interesting. I hope that people, sort of heed your advice if they're out there trying to make their first movie or their 10th, and check you out and get some mentorship, some guidance.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Great to meet you.
All right, bye-bye.
I like him, man. He's a cool dude.
Very cool. So knowledgeable. It was really why I wanted to have him on, because again, like I said at the very beginning, he's my kind of guy, that having that, that balance of being a creative, but also being business savvy.
Having both sides of the brain. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so important. And it's something that I strive to have. Nowhere near to this guy's level.
Well, it's interesting because when we came up with this podcast idea, we said it's about the entertainment business and the business of entertainment. He's got both sides of those going on, and not everyone does. So.
Of course, we had a third part of it too. Anybody had a cool story.
Exactly. And anyone who has a cool story. Darren, man, as always, dude.
Love you, buddy.
Awesome.
Later, dude.
Tom and D.
Two middle-aged idiots.
This podcast is produced by 224 Media with voice and audio support by Fry on the Fly Productions.